Hi, everybody. I'm Ansalit.
Dan. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am well.
We are here now with our series, Coaching Starts Before the Session, and we are looking at Core Competency 5, which is maintains presence. But this isn't in the session. We know this applies to the coaching session, but today we are actually talking about how does this competency apply to our lives outside the session, on our day off, when we're not working, when we're not coaching. How are we maintaining our presence? And I just want to say, I'm going to say for myself, and I think I could probably say for many people out there, maybe the question is, how often do we sit with ourselves? We don't move, we sit in stillness. Can we tolerate stillness? We talk so much about silence in a session, giving silence to the client, creating space with the client. And that makes me think about that in this competency. How much silence are we giving ourselves outside a session? How much time alone do we allow ourselves to process our lives and what we want and our day to day? What's coming up for you?
The idea of sitting in that silence as creating a space of being versus just constantly running and doing the next thing. Um, that we get into the idea that we have to be busy all the time. We have to be constantly doing. And as we've talked even in the first episode of, is it intentional or is it just doing to avoid, so that we appear to be busy, but we're not actually getting anything accomplished toward our bigger goals? Do we give ourselves a chance to sit and be and intentionally craft forward?
Yeah, and I want to say, I think if we said busyness as avoidance, that could be one thing. But then there
Mm-hmm.
are there are just people who are like, hey, my busyness is productive. I'm getting up, I do 5 sessions, then I'm going to go for a nature walk, then I'm going to walk my dog, then I might go to the museum, then I might go take a yoga class. They're doing all these great well-being things for themselves, but you're never stopping. You're never taking a moment, right, to create that space or that silence that you would always give your client in a session. You're not doing that here. You may be going and having a great yoga session and having something happening in that session, or going to a meditation, or going to work out, but you aren't, it's still you're doing, right? You're doing versus being present with yourself. And so, what could that look like? Because I gotta say, I mean, I think that people as a coach, they can struggle with presence in
Mm-hmm.
a session. And so now we're taking out other people entirely. We're thinking, okay, how do we maintain presence for ourselves? What does that look like other than just sitting still in a room, quiet and doing nothing?
What comes up immediately for me is the idea that, one, everybody's going to be different. So it comes back to becoming present with what that activity or non-activity does for you, because they're like, yoga is going to be a moving meditation. um, does that does going to those classes fuel the individual, or does sitting in silence fuel the individual, or sometimes a little bit of both? That we're not just running because we're on a schedule and we're supposed to be there, but it actually, when we look back on it, fills and re-energizes our cup.
Right. And I think that there's, silence for yourself, like silence for your client, however that might show up. There's also presence for the people in your life. I mean, I think that we forget, are we being present with a person we might see in our home every single day, all the time? Are we showing up with every moment of that interaction being present? Or are we checked out half the time? Or are we checked out part of the time?
Mm-hmm. Are we present with some story in our head about what we think they're present to? And we're shutting down the communication because we already have some idea of where anything would go? Or are we present with being disinterested and not even caring what they think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it is interesting because, again, what you're practicing every day is what's going to show up. And presence starts before you even get on that Zoom call or go into that coaching session. It starts way before that. And we have learned as a coach how to show up with presence in the session. That's part of all the training you do. But how are we really using this competency? And are you? I mean, I really want to challenge coaches. How many coaches out there are have taken, how many of coaches have taken all 8 of these competencies and said, I'm going to apply this to my everyday life all day long? Like, come on. I mean, it's practically impossible, right? But what a
It's
world can
impossible to apply them to a session for review.
exactly. So, but at the same time, imagine if you can take them into your everyday life, little pieces even. You're going to understand it so much better, and that really is the embodiment of being the whole person, right? Not just in your session with the person you're looking at, but how can you be present with a whole person that is you when you're just living your day to day, going to the bathroom, taking a shower, cooking dinner?
Yeah, and it reminds me of not everything being about an outcome, like being present in the
Yes.
journey, being present with what's here right now, and not having it so I have to do it because I have to get somewhere. It's here we are right now, and really and bringing that self-awareness, sitting in the silence of understanding what our underlying drivers are. If we suddenly find we wanted, you know, not hold an agreement, which we talked about in the first episode, really looking at ourselves and providing that mirror to self by slowing down and just starting to ask ourselves the same questions we would ask to a client.
Hmm. As you were saying that be present, I was thinking cooking, instead of thinking, I've got to get this, dinner made. It's okay, be present as I'm chopping the onions, chopping the peppers, chopping the ingredients. Really be present with the process of putting the meal together, not just, I want to eat, let me just get this together and make it. And I can't wait for the outcome, right? I mean, that's a simple thing because I think we all make food. So it's easy to use that as maybe a metaphor. But I think a lot of us do spend our personal time for the outcome because we feel better when we've created an out. We know that we have value when we've checked the box off. But if we're spending our days kind of going through everything on our list, everything on our schedule, it is focused on the outcome. How do you become present then, as you said, in the moments before you get to that outcome? So that I think could be key.
And what comes up for me is using that cooking metaphor. Anytime I have tried to rush something, I always burn it because I'm trying to get there faster than, so I'll use a little more heat or I'll do something to try and drop the time. But if I just stay present with the scent of it, the texture of it, all the things along the way, it'll still turn out on time relatively, but it'll be a much better meal than if I try to rush it to be at the end. And particularly being present with chopping it is how I tend to keep my fingers.
And as we wrap up this core competency, I think part of helping us to become more present is being aware of our senses. Breathing, taking, smelling. What are you smelling in that moment? So engaging your sense of smell, engaging your breath, engaging your touch. If you can even just be focused on what are my senses doing in this moment, that immediately is going to bring you to the present because you've got to smell, you've got to hear, you've got
Mhm.
to touch, you've got to maybe taste, you've got to breathe, right?
And maybe bringing them all in. And
Yes.
if you notice on if we're noticing we're not in the moment, take a few, close your eyes, take in those breaths, and check in with all of your senses to see what you're picking up from around the area, around the
Yes.
environment.
Yeah. So there you have it. That is core competency 5, maintains presence. And we hope that you will think about this in your everyday life. And if you like this, subscribe. We've got more in the series. See our
Yeah.
next one.
See.